Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome back. It's another episode of your favorite podcast, which of course is Keeping It Rio. And this, my friends, is episode 158. Super excited for my guest today. I'm looking right now. This is going to be a pretty damn good intro because my guest today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just reading this off of your email. So this is all official stuff.
No, let's not do that.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just reading. I got a little thing here. Our guest today is the CEO and founder of BrandAll LLC, as well as Vanguard Mobile Inc., Metro Media Ventures Incorporated, as well as Hustlers Grind Coffee LLC. So I feel like we're going to have quite a bit to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming my friend Dean Talley to Keeping It Rio. Dean, how's it going, my friend?
I am keeping it real. I'm keeping it real.
That's what I'm talking about. So welcome to the show. We've had a little bit of a fun time trying to connect here. We had to reschedule because of a conference that I didn't know I was going to be going to. And just here within the last couple minutes, we've kind of learned a little bit about technical concepts as it pertains to streaming. So thankful that we're here.
And we both probably have about the same level of tech expertise.
Very little, my friend. It's funny how little you need to make something like this work, but
no kidding,
making it work. So that's cool. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on, my man? Where are you coming at us from today?
I live in Kansas City, Missouri. I've been here for, well, I'm not great at math either, since 1983. So I've been here for a minute. My parents had the wherewithal that halfway through my junior year of high school that we should move from Lakeland, Florida, which I'd spent my entire life, to Lee Summit, Missouri, which I didn't know at that point if it even had indoor plumbing. So halfway through my junior year, we moved to Kansas City, and my parents lasted 3 winters and they moved back to Florida. And so that brought me to 86, which is the year that I met my wife. And I've been stuck here ever since.
Well, hey, it's a good reason to be stuck in Kansas City. From what I understand, pretty good sports town, especially here recently. So can't complain about that, right?
Yeah, we've got these rings. I think there's like 3 of them now. I could literally almost hit a 3-wood from my house to the stadium.
All right, a 3-wood. So we're right there. You're looking at it. I can appreciate this very much. So I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. We were talking about that just a little bit. So I'm a Buckeye, and here's to football dynasties.
Absolutely.
I feel sorry for those that live in towns that don't have them.
Every time I'm in Columbus and Cleveland, because as you and I were talking, I do some consulting work in Ohio. After I signed my consulting contract with that particular franchise owner, the very first trip to Cleveland actually was right after the Chiefs had beat Baker Mayfield to go to, I think, the Super Bowl. And there wasn't a single person in Cleveland that was happy to see me. But I love Columbus. Columbus, as you said, where you're from, this will sound funny to some people, but when I tell people I love Cleveland because it's a lot like Kansas City as far as the people are concerned. And Columbus, to me, is like a smaller version of Austin. I mean, it has become this huge young tech city, and I love Columbus to death. Been there many, many, many times. Love it to death.
That's a very interesting comparison. I never really thought of it like that, but you're actually spot on with that assessment. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I had never considered the two. Not a big fan of either one at this point in my life because I live in San Antonio now, and a bad day here is, oh my gosh, we're going to freeze. It might be like 60 out. So I've gotten a little spoiled over the course of the last 12 years in Texas, and wouldn't want it any other way.
And I don't blame you. I have one friend that we've known each other since we were 11 years old who lives in Houston, actually Kima now. But and for about a decade, from 2001 to 2010, 11, my wife and I owned a digital signage company. and we had digital signage in about 150 shopping malls around the country. And we did I don't know if is it called the promenade along the river there in San Antonio?
The river walk is all I know.
Okay, but
Potentially, yes.
There's a bunch of shopping and the thing through there, and
Okay, I know what you're talking about. I've been here 5 years and I still use my GPS to get to the gas station. So directionally challenged.
And I never had the opportunity to go to that particular location, but I know we had digital signage there, and I know my team said that was one of the most beautiful areas that they had ever been to. Period.
It's a fact. It's a fact, and I'm glad that I'm here. You know, I've been here for 5 years, and like I said, I still use the GPS to get to the gas station. I need to travel around a little bit and explore my city, but the weather is outstanding, and so is the golf. So here's to San Antonio.
You're a golfer?
Well, I'll be honest. I've started to take this hobby up over the course of maybe the last 2.5 years. And the funny story behind my golf career is I actually retired when I was 18 years old from my dream of being a professional golfer, because honestly, I was dog shit as a golfer. I sucked. And I one time, I remember this very vividly because I thought I was finished with this game forever. But my dad, I don't know why he did this, but he inserted me into his golf league as a substitute. And the thing about his golf league, my dad at this point in his life was a school bus driver in Dublin, Ohio. And
Dublin,
this was a bunch of school bus drivers, right? Ranging in age from, probably like 35 to, I'm saying 70-ish, maybe a little above.
Okay.
And here I am. I'm an 18-year-old. I have no experience playing golf. I'm actually left-handed, but my dad was too cheap to get me left-handed clubs. So I learned how to swing the club right-handed, but with that comes a horrible inability to hit the ball straight, right? I can smash the cover off it, but it's going to be like 3 counties over.
Well, trust me, even right-handed, I still have the inability to hit the ball straight as well. So
it's one of those aspects of the game that we've just either got to love or you got to stop. So
I agree.
I was over there and I was having a really rough day, and I was paired up with this old lady, and God bless her. She's probably no longer, I'm sure she's no longer with us, but this is beside the point. She was being a little vociferous. She was giving me a little bit of taunting, and I didn't appreciate it. So after about the 4th or 5th hole of this going on, we kind of got into a little bit of a verbal altercation. I walked away from the game at that point. I was asked very politely never to go back, which was fine. So about 25 years go by. I get invited to play at the PGA golf course here in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
This is a total disaster, horrible idea, but who am I to say no to that opportunity? So I end up playing over here, and as expected, it was terrible, but it did inspire me because I thought, you know what? This is kind of cool. This is a beautiful golf course. I come to find out they're not all that nice, but I bought some golf clubs. I took up the game after that, and I've been practicing, and I just broke 100 for the first time in my life on my birthday last week.
Oh, wait, golf clap.
Yeah, right. Nice and quiet. That's about how it feels sometimes. But yeah, I'm on my way to the senior PGA tour. I think it's an inevitable thing at this point.
So here's my quick golf story. So late 90s, for a few years, I was a partner in another media company, and my 2 partners were a guy who was 20 years older than me, who was a scratch golfer, and a guy that was about 10 years older than me who hadn't golfed. Now, you have to understand the premise that growing up in Florida, my parents owned a chain of golf and tennis stores. So, and we owned a golf course with Andy Bean. Okay. So the expectation is, I'm a freaking golfer, right? And a tennis player. I loved playing tennis, and I think you're at least 15, 18 years younger than me. When I came up, it was all about McEnroe and Connors and Bjorn Borg, so that was I loved tennis during that era. So my father was left-handed as you, and was fortunate enough to, when ping golf clubs were, I don't know if they're still a big deal or not, but, we sold a lot of pings. And so, Mr. Karsten, before he died, measured my dad for his clubs and all this stuff. It was a really friggin' big deal. So anyway, so my two partners are like, Dean, you need to start playing golf with us. And I'm like, guys, I haven't played since I was like 12 years old, right? So one Christmas, they buy me Tommy Armour 855s, 825, I don't know, a set of clubs. And they're like, I have never wasted so much money on golf balls in my entire life. And it's literally, I'm like, 6 hours to finish a round of golf and lose $70 worth of golf balls. It's not my idea of fun. I never got any better. If I was on my phone, I'd take you down into my garage. Those Tommy Armour 855 or 45, whatever the hell they are, they're still in my garage. And
just in case, you may take up the game sometime 20 years down the road. You never know. Got to be prepared.
Dude, pickleball, and even the thought of that makes me, it has a better chance than golf at this point.
I can appreciate it. And I feel the same way. But the thing about golf to me is I'll play absolutely horrible the entire day, and I'll be frustrated and just so annoyed by everything. And it's always on the last hole. I'll have the best shot. I'll make the game-ending putt or whatever. And it's like, that is always a sign. I usually have my only good hole on the last one. And I feel like that's a sign to just come back again and try it next time. And maybe you'll be better. It was a lot more fun and less stressful when I didn't keep score, but it's also highly encouraging to know that I broke 100. So, and that may have very well been a birthday gift. I'm not sure. I wasn't the one keeping score, but a good friend of mine that I trust and a very respected individual was keeping score. So I have to assume it's legit.
Well, it got to a point, they were so adamant. And I mean, I just couldn't do the Saturday, Sunday, 18-hole golf trip. I just spent, look, I can't spend that much time failing, okay, all day. And so inevitably, there was I think they call it an executive course that was like right down the street from our office. And I think it was primarily par threes, probably maybe one par four, maybe one par five.
Those are the best.
And that was the only summer that I actually enjoyed, playing, because we'd go at lunch, right? And, we could get I think it was just 9 holes, I think. And so, I mean, we play 9 holes. You couldn't lose a ball on the damn place, right? I mean, you could see a ball. I mean, and I enjoyed it because it was in and out. It didn't matter. And I got to a point where I was, not bad. I mean, I was shooting high 80s, low 90s, for a minute. But again, then it went away. And you got to find your lane. You know what I mean? And golf wasn't it. And, my wife and I have been gym rats for like 27 years. And, so that's kind of where we go, for that physical release. And, and then every now and then I've found that I'm really good playing golf with an Oculus. I'm amazing, in VR. So I'll take that at this point.
Hey, the word reality is in virtual reality. So that it is what it is. You can't fake it. So I appreciate that. And I feel the same way. I like going to the gym myself. That's what gives me my true energy and gives me the desire to get up and be better every day than I was the day before. And that's the mindset that I'm trying to take into this venture I've got going on with my company. And I've been paying attention to yours here for the last couple of weeks. You popped up on my Facebook about maybe, 5-6 weeks ago, kind of took a look, and I was intrigued by what I saw. And I was very thankful that you actually reached out to be on the podcast.
Yeah,
because I'd like to learn a little bit about what you've got going on here, not just in the roofing industry, but, in general. But you've got something new here. We see the Smart Tarp by BrandAll is the name that we've got. So let's talk a little bit about the Smart Tarp. What's going on with this?
Sure. So it was probably the end of 2021, the beginning of 2022. I was spending some time, having conversation with Garen at Shamrock, and he was just kind of we were just talking about marketing and media, which is, I've been incredibly fortunate. My wife and I have been serial entrepreneurs for 35 years. We've done nine or 10 startups in that 35 years. And, so we're always open and looking. And, Garen and I just started talking about marketing and media in the roofing industry. And I was just like, Tarps and, understanding, just because from where I come from, the perception that roofing companies aren't about, hanging shingles. They're about lead gen and sales. I mean, that's what roofing companies are about. And, for me, I'm an old school guy, right? I mean, I started selling timeshare when I was 17 years old. So, the B2B one-to-one sales methodology, that I kind of brought up and have taught for so many years, really only exists now in a handful of industries, and roofing is one of those industries that it does. And so we just kind of looked at it and was like, what's missing there when, guys are just hanging blue tarps and, all this kind of stuff. And I mean, there were some, alternatives out there, that said, oh yeah, we're marketing too. And I just thought, you're really good at the thing you started off doing, but trying to say that, maybe not. I don't know. I just thought there was an opportunity there for us to provide some value. And we have owned a mobile development company for about 13 years called Vanguard Mobile. So, back in like 2010, 2011, here in the US, QR codes, were tried, people tried to introduce them. And here in the US, we basically just said, we're not interested. And they disappeared, right? Until we wanted to go out to dinner again and look at a menu, during COVID. And so, but the dynamic changed dramatically with that. And there was just an opportunity where we saw that we had some very specific relationships with friends that had large format printers that were located around the world. And they were one of the largest large format printers in the world. And so we approached them and said, hey, here's this concept. And they said, well, yeah, we'll help you out a little bit. And so in 2022, we were like, okay, let's figure it out. And it was challenging. No, there was, as my wife would say, why do you think nobody else has tried to do this shit? And it is because it was freaking tough, right? I mean, we had to come up with a chemical process method and tools to take at that time, it's not the way that we do it now, a 8 by 10 to 10 by 10 large format sticker, let's say, and permanently connect it to a tarp. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to hang wallpaper, okay, but you can move wallpaper once you get it up. You can't do it with permanent adhesives. That it's just impossible. And I know I've said this story before, even on our sites. The first set of tarps that my wife and I put together in our garage, pull them out onto the driveway, and my wife just starts crying. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? She says, these people are going to hate us. This is absolute shit. Why are we doing this? And I'm like, baby, I'm telling you, it's your perspective, right? When you change the way you look at things, you change the way things look, right? You're fearful because you don't want us to be rejected, all of those things. I'm telling you, trust me. And, Archway Roofers was the first people to write a review for us when they received them. Now, that being said, now it's a totally different game. We, you know, produce smart tarps at the smallest size 16 by 20, the largest size 30 by 40. We have no limits as far as graphics are concerned. So if you order 30 by 40 foot graphic or 30 by 40 foot tarps from us, and you tell us you want the graphics to be 30 feet by 20 feet, we got you, right? And we print it all in UV protected ink. We print it underneath the first layer of the vinyl so you can't scratch it off. And it is the strongest material that you'll ever use. I mean, it's a vinyl substrate that's tear resistant, puncture resistant. And so we kind of just looked at that and went, okay, if we take that and then our ability to create trackable dynamic short codes, like QR codes, and create and put those two things together, there's nothing else out there, right, that is generating job site referrals, right? So it was like, hey, you spent $3-4 grand to wrap your truck. What if you could wrap the house the same way?
It's an awesome concept, and I'm not lying, because I had never, something like that had never crossed my mind. I guess it was always something that we just took for granted. And you hit the nail on the head with the question, why hasn't anybody tried this before? Because it's absolutely brilliant, right? And there's a huge need in our market for as much visibility as you could possibly get. I mean, that is the name of the game. Like you said, it's not so much what's going on above the tarp, it's what's going on, from there down, and how we're getting our name out there, how we're getting the attention, and nothing like a giant billboard on the side of a house, right?
Well, and that was kind of our approach. It was, the reality is that because of all of our experience dealing with exterior companies, with our consulting company, our perspective, right, was, look, roofing companies are in a unique position because, again, branding is so unbelievably important, right? You want to be, because you're not a vanity phone call, right? I'm not calling you because I don't like the color of my shingles, right? Maybe in Coconut Beach they do that, but not in most places, right? So as a roofer, you want to be the last guy somebody sees, the first one they think of, when that storm comes through or whatever it is. And branding and visibility are a big part of that. And in the industry, credibility, professionalism, are obviously a huge issue too. And we just kind of thought, that we could, be a benefit. And what we now know is that, when we track the scans of our customers, that, we're generating 300 times more referrals on job sites than anything else, whether it's a bandit sign, a truck, whatever. Nothing compares, because look, the public has been trained now to scan QR codes, and it doesn't matter if you're 8 or 80, you know how to do it. And even our mobile customers with Vanguard, we tell people, quit putting your phone number on shit. It takes more effort to put your phone number in and save it than it does to scan and get everything I need from you. If that makes sense.
It truly does make sense. And that's something that we took into account, not that long ago with my own company is, the phone number. Like you said, it's more steps, it's more effort, and we've got to be as simple as humanly possible. That's the common theme with society nowadays, is just simple-mindedness and just, instant gratification.
Simple-mindedness might not be the right word.
Well, look around. And just, instant gratification. So I love that concept. I think it's great. You're still, like you say, brand new into this industry with roofing. You've had some great input from people who are large in the industry. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about the process of, getting this thing to market, from your concept, going through the entire process. And you kind of said something that really triggered something in my mind when you said, this is not how we're doing it anymore. So that leads me to the obvious question. what prompted the change in the way that you're doing things? Was there something that you found that was maybe not as effective as you'd like, or maybe not as efficient? What's the process been like getting from start to this point?
The biggest thing for us was just knowing that we could produce a better product, right? I mean, you kind of have this balance, from a sales perspective. I mean, we don't want a product to last forever, I guess, right? I mean, because you want you want it to sell more, but our when we looked at, and again, I will say this. I mean, I think it was like 40% of the people who bought our what we call first gen tarps reordered. So I mean, we felt, that's great, but we also had people who said, you know what, it's not as sturdy as I thought it was going to be. It's the heat, created a separation, and again, after being, with the same woman for 38 years, the last thing you want to hear is, I told you people were going to be pissed. And so you kind of have to figure out a way. And we just started looking for what, how could we just asked a question, right? Everything is about asking the right question, whether it's selling, somebody else something, or selling yourself something, or a solution, right? It's just ask the best question that you can. And we just looked at it and went, if we could do it any way that we chose, what method, what would we want it to do? How long would we want it to last? What all of what's the ultimate. And once we kind of put that together, it was like, well, okay, how do we do that? And in our case, it was, you got to find a printer that cost about $250,000. And then you're not doing stickers anymore. You're printing below the first layer of the vinyl substrate, and you're able to produce tarps in what some people consider an important thing, an environmentally friendly product. But most importantly, it's puncture resistant and tear resistant, up to 165 pounds butterfly.
Nice.
You can't mess these things up. And, if they get dirty, you can use a 200 PSI power washer and they look brand new, So for us, it was we just decided we wanted to figure out a way to do the ultimate, because I just didn't think the way we were doing it before, it was incredibly labor intensive. I love Garen Armstrong from Shamrock more than I could ever say. And when his company turned around and says, okay, I'll take 20 of them, when we were making them in our garage in the middle of the friggin' summer, we weren't happy. Okay.
20 was a chore, I guarantee.
It was awful, dude. Awful, And so, but friends would tell me, even, because we had moments where we're just like, Jesus, why are we doing this? I mean, there's a reason why nobody else is doing it, right? Nobody else wants to do what we're doing. And I have to give our friends their flowers, because they were just like, you're doing something because people are buying them and they're reordering. So, there's a need being, filled. If you quit now, you're never going to know where it can go and what it could become. And you just got to focus on what it can be and chase that. And it took us until July of last year.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, that's a hell of a motivational speech right there. But, going from version 1 and being unsure of everything and thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, what have we gotten ourselves into? Taking that leap, putting the investment into getting the equipment to take it to the next level. At any point, now I'm sure that I already know the answer to this, did you question your sanity and say, what the hell are we doing? Why are we investing more? Or did you realize, okay, at this point, we can become more efficient. We're not going to be completely tied to this for the rest of our lives. Because when you get an order for 20 and it's overwhelming, you start thinking, I don't want to sell to too many people here. And then it's not very sustainable long term because you're just not going to, not going to have enough volume. So in between that first rendition where you're killing yourself in the garage, it's hot out, you're trying to make these things perfect, and you're still getting people that are maybe not super, super satisfied, to the point where you realize, okay, here's what we need to do. What kind of, inner conversations were had to convince yourself, yes, this is something that we need to move forward with because it is going to work and we are 100% all in on it?
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't need inner conversation because my wife made sure I heard all of the conversation, which was, and she was right. I had to make sure she didn't hear that. Look, she would say to me when we would be in the garage making these things, she's just like, there's no margin built in, if to pay somebody else to do this. And there's the profit's not there. The labor's too high. And she's like, what am I getting paid to do this shit? And I'm like, well, we get to work together, honey.
Right.
And
that's all you need.
Yeah, that didn't work. But dude, I will say this, whether it's through, well, I don't want to say that because this is recorded. Dude, I don't know how to quit. And thank God my wife doesn't either, because she would have quit me a long time ago. We've, as I said, we've actually never had quote unquote jobs. She was 16 and I was 19 when we had our first date, and we've been together ever since. So that's 38 years as of March 26th. And, we started our first company when I was 22, and we have been through, you think you're the king of the fucking mountain, when you're 25 years old, your company's doing, $1.5 million. This is in the 80s, folks. Don't shame me. And you spend every dime like it's never going to end. And when it ends, you're like, shit. And then you come up, you do something else, and you have a little bit of success, and then you do something else, and then that fails, and then you do something else, and you have to sell your house, and you have to sell your appliances out of your house. Yeah, and you lose everything twice.
What a life. It's when you think about it in logical terms, it's like, boy, we're not normal. But
we're not normal.
Again, I would not want it any other way. Those struggles are what makes us who we are, and the people that don't realize what we go through to get to where we ultimately end up, I feel sorry for them, because that's the journey of life, and that's the fun part of it. Is as much as it seems like it's not fun and it sucks, and oh my God, what are we gonna do? When you look back over the course of time, you think, man, I wouldn't be who I am without that. So that's a very beautiful thing.
My wife and I were just talking about this the other day. Both of our kids are 37 and 34. And both of them own their own businesses. And, there's obviously a certain amount of pride when, my daughter, who's a multi-million-dollar real estate agent, and my son, who, does huge numbers in the tile setting business, where they're like, we wouldn't know how to do it if it wasn't for you and mom. And, it's a huge thing. Right. And, and I love the fact we have a 13-year-old granddaughter who thinks she's 30. And she sees it too, right? And so, but I will tell you, Chuck, that, and I sent it to you, I just launched my podcast, The Hustler's Grind, to start to expand on beahustler.com and sales training and methods. that I've used and taught for the last 35 years. And I guys that have worked for me and I've taught and trained over the years, watching those guys, and I'm sure you see it with your salespeople. People don't realize that one of the greatest things that happens when you are an owner is not about, if you're a successful owner, the money and all the toys, all that shit is great. But at the end of the day, at least when you get to be my age, at almost 58 here in a couple months, I've had the Porsches, the Jaguars, the Range Rover, all of it, right? But what puts a smile on my face more than anything else is the guys that worked for me 20 years ago that now own, successful multi-million-dollar companies that are continuing that legacy of how to plan, how to leverage, the assets that you have to achieve that plan, how to optimize that plan, and how to make sure that you have the will to stay on that path until it's done. And I'm fortunate that I get to have those conversations and get to watch that, because it's amazing for me.
I think honestly, it's the most rewarding part of what I do.
Yeah.
And I've gotten, over the last 26 years in the roofing industry, I've gotten to meet a lot of people along the way. I've gotten to help a lot of people. One of my favorite aspects of what I do right now is I'll just randomly get text messages from younger people in the industry or even veterans. And they just say, hey, what would you do in this situation? What do you know about this? And if I can help somebody to avoid some of the things I did, when I got into sales, I was a complete, utter mess. And it took a lot of work and almost being completely, out of the industry just due to not having success, to where I had to pick myself up and teach it. And if I can help anybody along the way, that is the sole purpose for my being in the roofing industry right now. The company that we have, we just bought this Rio Blanco roofing from my previous partners. A buddy of mine and myself bought it, and he's based in Columbus, Ohio, as a matter of fact. And we are going to.
Now, do you have an office in Columbus as well?
He's got an office in Columbus, multiple business ventures, one in Florida. He's got a roofing supply company as well over in Columbus. So a very well thought out guy. What's that?
Who's that? What's his name?
My buddy's name is Jason, and Jason Shumway. His company's Bradford Exteriors. And he just recently started his Bradford roofing supply up there in Columbus. So things are looking bright for the future. But when we met and decided to do this partnership together, we both had the exact same mindset, which was 5 years ago, my goal was to build a $25 million company, potentially 50 million, to have multiple offices all over the place and to serve the entire state of Texas. Well, I got to the point where I had 3 offices, and I came very quickly to realize 8 times that I'm going to be dead. Like, there's no possible way for me to be able to do this. And we got an opportunity to kind of rewind, and Rio Blanco got kind of deactivated for a little bit. I was able to go do some other things, came back, partnered up with Jason, and both of us just decided, hey, look, I want this to make money. My overhead's very low. I don't have a family. I'm not married. So my requirements are not that high. I want to be able to do a few roofs. I want to provide a family for people who maybe have not been able to meet their potential for whatever reasons. Maybe they just haven't been given the opportunity. But those are the people that I want to affect the most, the ones that I can go find and change their lives. And through this roofing, that's the vehicle that I was given. 25 years ago, I had a bad day at my drywall job, and I ended up in roofing that Friday. And here we are. That's really the only way that it could possibly happen. But it's changing those people's lives and seeing people that you teach, taking what they've learned and adapt it into what they do, and then going out there and achieving success that really, in my mind, is what we are going to be remembered for. The lives that we touched, the people that we help along the way. And it's so widespread that I don't think either one of us will ever really understand the depth of what we've done to help people. So thank you for that. You know, your contribution has been much appreciated by many folks, I'm sure.
Well, and I hope I'm not done. I hope I'm not done. But I so totally get when you're saying, "Oh my God, I wanted my original view was to get to this level, right, of a 45, 50 minute, whatever." And I will tell you, right. So, and I'll just use, and not to continue to use his name, but he's an important guy to me, Garen Armstrong with Shamrock, and I'll just give you just a little bit of a story of where kind of, I mean, we have known each other probably since like 2005, 2006, back like when we were still in nightclubs, right? And hanging out and doing the whole nightclub thing. But although my wife was a fitness and figure competitor, she ended up having congestive heart failure about 8 years ago. And it was like they didn't know, why she got it. And, and inevitably after about a year, she was back to an athlete's level, and, and she's been fine since then. But we were, vocal in public about it. And I got a call from Garen the day he was admitted into the hospital with heart problems. And so we've had a unique connection because of that, process of before he got his heart transplant, all of these different things that he's had to go through. But, and the only reason why I bring that up is because, again, I'm so amazingly appreciative of him. He flew me out with his entire team, 150 people on his team, out to Andy Elliott's Lions Den, and it included me in his team. And he and I had the conversation of the difference between when you go from 25 million to 50 million. And he's like, dude, he says, it's the greatest thing, the scariest thing, because there's not a huge number of people that you can go out and go, talk to me, right? Give me some input. What are your, right? Because there's how many in that are at that level in this industry, right? There's not a ton, right? And I love the fact that that was your goal. And, we've been looking at, what we're going to do with smart tarps. And, we went from very basic graphics and, and dynamic QR codes to now 3D graphics. And, we're in the middle of now getting ready to add virtual reality to those QR codes so that when somebody scans them, they'll literally be able to see a sales pitch from the roofing company.
Wow.
And so, we got some crazy shit coming because, that's just the way that, my team works. But it is, and I'll say this to you because I've kind of been in a little bit of a different spot than kind of you were. And one of the guys that sits on my advisory board is like, you've been beaten down so much, through the failures. He's like, now you're saying, oh, if you could do 10 million and then exit in 3 years and, and then go on the road and play music for the rest of your life, that, you'd be happy. He says, this is a 50 to $75 million a year company if you do it right. So, and this is the way he says it to me: shut the fuck up and listen to me.
You got to respect it, right? And I mean, to get to that level,
yeah,
I guarantee you weren't thinking along those lines when you got into it.
No,
but here we are, reality strikes, and it's like, dude, we've got something pretty big. And that was going to be my next question. What does the future look like? Are you looking to build a $75 million a year company, or, do you still have plans of, let's go out and play music, dude? We made our money and we had our fun. It was good while it lasted, and move on down the road.
I will say this, that it's undecided right now because, on one hand, I've had this thing with our digital signage company that we owned for 10 years was the most successful company that we ever owned. We had digital signage in 150 shopping malls, the largest, in-mall digital signage company in the country. And when the economy went to shit in 2010 and 2011, we had to sell the company for a loss. And, although, we've never been broke, we've always, been great. I haven't had that next, huge deal yet. And I've always said, I have to have at least one more in me. I mean, I've done it like 3 out of the 9. I got to figure that, there's at least one more, and so that's kind of the thing with BrandAll, where I'm just like, and again, my advisory board says the same thing. So I've got, that kind of in front of me. And then the other side of it is that for the last 20 years, one of my passions has been wanting to, spend my time speaking and teaching, my life skills methodology, which is called Plow Through Life, as in sales training, and with the podcast. And so now at, 57 years old, we're just now, get the book that I wrote 10 years ago is finally finished. So, that's on the horizon. And then, I have, as I said, I'm sitting in my recording studio right now. And, I would, because you can't make any money in the music business now. So, I would love to be able to play and just run around and play and do that. So I've got some choices, and as long as you've got options, the world is, at your fingertips, but I think my ego is built in such a way that I want to make Smart Tarps successful. I feel like even with the response that I've gotten from the first couple of episodes of the Hustler's Grind, in recognizing that there's some skill sets that I think the industry and the salespeople in the industry and roofing, that I think I can bring some value there. With, I filled my 10,000 hours like 100,000 hours ago. So I think there's some value there. And, I'll be recording in my studio tonight, and, and that's always there, but, I don't have an answer there yet.
That's really a wonderful thing. Yeah. Life is all about evolution. And I always say, whatever the best laid plan is, it's going to be completely different by the time you get to the end anyway. Yeah. So for me, I wing it constantly, and I'm still here, that's a win. Every day you get out of bed and you get to live 24 hours. It's a victory. There's some people that didn't succeed today at that. Right. And
some people didn't wake up. So
yeah, here we are. We're talking about podcasting and doing all kinds of cool things, bringing innovative products to the market, and, really changing the way things are done.
Yeah. So what's your view with your roofing company? Where do you see it in 5 years?
To be honest, I don't have. I don't have an idea.
Don't lie to me, Chuck. I prefer that you lie.
Okay. Well, here's the reality. I don't know exactly what I want to do with it either. I'm in that sweet spot right now where, like I said, everything is kind of nice and basic, and there's something very cool about that. My other 2 things that I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to go work on my golf game, which I'm horrible, but wanted to do that. And I wanted to be able to do episodes of my podcast. Yeah. And at some point down the road, I would love to find a way to maybe have sponsorship for the podcast to where, I can do this and I can generate some revenue and I can help some people and I can reach more and I can have a better quality of whatever I'm doing. And for the roofing company, if I can get it in there to where, I can help 150 to 200 people a year, I would be completely satisfied. Or if I can get into a bigger niche like commercial and I can do, 3 or 4 really nice big scale projects where we can focus on our quality and we can be the best at what we do, I'll be happy. I don't want to focus on insurance restoration. I don't want to have to be beholden to the insurance carriers. Cash flow becomes a major issue in those situations. So I'm hyper aware of that from my previous experience. I want to make this more of a retail based kind of a upscale roofing contractor. And I want to also just use it for things like, my sponsor, Roofer. I use all of their programs for my roofing company so I can be a case study. I can explain to people I use this stuff on a daily basis and this is what works for me. This is, how I do things. And, it's more of a tool than, putting all my eggs in that basket. I did that previously and it didn't work out. So for me, trying to diversify, and I want that to be a little arm of the ultimate spider that I'm trying to grow over here. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And Roofer was kind of a cool thing. I mean, the first industry event that we did was RoofCon and in Orlando. And, Hunter is just an amazing dude and was incredibly gracious with us. But I was trying to think, doesn't TJ McCormick, doesn't he work for Roofer?
He's not any longer. TJ was with him until I guess the beginning of the year, or maybe like late last year, but he moved on. He's with EuroShield now.
That's right. And so I met because TJ had reached out to me really early on in like 2023, and we were talking about sponsorship of when he was doing his tour, I think with Jen Silver or something that they were doing. I don't know. And we didn't end up working out, but I wasn't familiar. And this is the crazy part. I mean, for a guy that kind of stepped into this industry, I mean, I knew nothing about friggin' roofing. I mean, nothing. And to this day, I mean, trust me, there are people who comment on my shit that tell me that I know nothing about roofing today.
Same here. 26 years in, I get it all the time.
Yeah. And I tell people, and now here's the funny part, Chuck, is that one of our great clients is up in West Virginia, Holloway Roofing. And so James is an amazing guy. So he sent some fantastic pictures where, we took a 16 by 20 foot tarp and turned it so we were 20 feet across and 16 down. And we printed all of his graphics 20 feet across. So it literally is a damn billboard, right?
It's badass. I'm actually looking at it as you're describing it. So yes, it is cool.
So, you've got literally a 20 feet by 10 feet, billboard on a house. And so I use, clients that send me pictures. We use them in all of our marketing. We throw them out there day in, day out. And one of the first comments that I got from somebody when I used that pic was, "No safety ropes in sight." I'm like, dude, I mean,
we're not even the contractors.
I just sell the fucking tarp. I mean, what are you doing? And then they're like, I said, dude, I appreciate it, but I just sell the tarps. So maybe you might want to choose some a different client to promote.
Yeah, there we go. That's one of our requirements is, hey, before I sell you this piece of equipment that's going to help you, let me make sure you're using proper safety attire, or else you're not worthy of the smart tarp.
Yeah.
I hate the internet.
It's crazy, dude. Crazy. And I will say this, when we first started, and again, in 2022, when my wife and I were building stuff in our garage, I didn't know anything about Facebook ads. I didn't know anything about social media marketing, nothing. The only thing that I thought was the methodology was to join a bunch of different roofing forums. And now what they would call spam the shit out of them. And I would get kicked out, every 3 days. And so, now I have VAs that do a lot of that stuff. And I remember the first conversation I had with a VA, and I said, I post in these, in these forums, and, they get pissed and everything else. He says, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you just need to keep doing it. I'm just like, I don't think so. Dude, guys, I love the fact that guys talk smack in the roofing industry. It cracks me up. And I will say this, I'll give a couple, anybody who's in this industry, in the e-commerce side, quit deleting and hiding your haters. You are fucking with your algorithm. They will bring you more views by keeping them up.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. And people don't realize that because they take things personally. And to
Yep.
me, I'm that way. And I admittedly, there have been a few times where it's been like, okay, you know, like I'm going to go get in my car. I'm going to go find this bastard because I don't appreciate this.
Well, you're in Texas, so there's a good possibility that you could do that.
Yeah, well, right. I have the mindset, but you over the course of time, you start to realize that. And I was talking with Dale Childress Jr. about a year and a half ago on the podcast.
Yeah.
And he told me that. He said, your haters are your biggest asset because they engage the most. They're the ones that go on there just to troll, just to be a dick. And God bless them, because those are the people that get you to the money the fastest. Those are the people that get you the clicks, that get you the views. And hey, I've got a few of them. I'd love to have more. And I'm sure at some point I will. But it's kind of cool. As soon as you
post this podcast, Chuck, you're going to get more.
Well, hey, whatever. I look at it that way and I say, if that's what it takes, then I'm going to continue to do it. My goal is to do 2,500 episodes of this show. And if my math is correct, we're at 158 with this episode today. So I got plenty of time to make people mad.
I appreciate so much. And, you know, so we're obviously, you know, I'm going to have you send me this recording so I can put it out on the Hustler. And we will certainly schedule for you and I to do this again, direct as well. This has been a lot of fun and great conversation. And I hope even offline that we can continue it.
Yes, that is absolutely a foregone conclusion. That's one thing about me. You're going to find out now. You are absolutely stuck with me. So we'll run into each other at industry events and we'll have all kinds of fun selfies and do all kinds of dumb shit. And that's what I love about our industry. So let's wind it down, my friend Dean. I appreciate you taking the time to be on Keepin' It Rio today. As we end our episode, the one thing I always like to do is give you that final opportunity. Someone's watching this right now. They've got a roofing company. They want some smart tarps. They think, man, this is a pretty damn cool idea. You've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on as well. They love your story, want to follow you. What are some of the best ways for these things to be done? And how can people purchase the smart tarps and get themselves 300X on their referrals?
Absolutely. So you can always go to getsmarttarps.com or tarpsmarter.com. And you'll see everything that we have. We've got multiple packages available, everything from 16 by 20s to 20 by 30 by 40s, all custom designed directly for you. If you want to get involved and take and listen to our podcast, it is at beahustler.com or the Hustler's Grind on Facebook. At the end of the day, I just want to say this, because spending so much time around roofing companies, most of the salespeople are 25 to 35 that I see. And I just want them to know that to master your business, you're going to make money right now when there's storms, right? Give you the short list here. When you started to ride a bike for the first time, you had what we call conscious incompetence. You knew you didn't know what the fuck you were doing. Then you got a little bit better and you figured out, oh, what I need to do. So then you got conscious competence, and that'll get you to a certain point. But if you quit before you get to mastery, which is unconscious competence, you're never going to see your full potential. That this industry can change your life if you let it and if you commit to it.
I could not have said that any better, man. That is absolute fire to end this episode. Dean Talley, thank you, my friend, for being here. Everybody for watching Keepin' It Rio. I always do appreciate you guys very much. Remember to share, like, subscribe. do all that cool stuff so I can get to my 2500th episode somewhere down the road. And episode 158, I feel, is the best one that's ever been done, because I feel like I want to be one better than I was the last time, every time I do it. So, Dean, until the next episode, you, my friend, are now the proud owner of the greatest episode ever of Keeping It Rio. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this masterpiece will be here when it gets its 1,000,000 views 300 years from now. Y'all are going to remember it. So thank you guys. Until next time, with a cheesy line.
Thank you.
Right, there you go. We'll be long gone by the time we become famous off of this, but it will happen, I promise. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, the corny ass tagline that takes it all away, keep on